Hi everyone, this is a more serious reading that I'm going to do. This is on Trump and Putin, and I was very tempted to use the Thoth cards for these two particular men, and I was pleased in the comments after I used them before that most people weren't freaked out and could see the beauty in the cards, and I'm not using them. But in general, I think more should be done to reclaim the deck from the sort of being maligned because of the Crowley Association. They were actually designed by a woman over 5 years, and they really do have something to offer. So, and also for those of you who might have been concerned about my spiritual well-being using them, I have cleansed the deck that I use very occasionally anyway of those, and I must have used a bucket of salt and a bucket of sage cleaning those cards to use them. So I was tempted, but I decided against it in the end. Now this particular reading is about these two miserable tyrants. It's a funny thing in life, isn't it? Why are tyrants always miserable? Well, I think I have the answer. And the answer is because what they have in common, always, tyrants, is they're paranoid. They're always worried about who's going to stab them in the back or the front for that matter. They're always worried about hanging on to power. They never trust people. And if you live your life without trusting people, what sort of life is that, really? I mean, it's fine to be cautious, but to really not trust anybody, it's not a good way to live your life. So these fairly profound men, not that I would usually use the word profound in relation to Trump, I simply mean profound positions in the world that affect us all. The relationship is very important. Now, as we all know, the US has had a complicated relationship with Russia for decades and beyond. The Cold War really didn't quite finish, and then suddenly along comes this Manhattan businessman, bent as a fishhook, who loves Putin in terms of what sort of power he represents. But we all know there's something really grubby going on between Trump and the Kremlin. So I thought it's time for looking at their relationship. So to do this, Trump and Putin, I'm going to use quite a complicated 15-card layout. So, for those of you who are learning tarot, you might find this interesting. It's not really for beginners. If you're already practicing, you might like to try this spread. But it is interesting. So let's see what's going to turn up. Trump. Oops. Sorry, I'm not going to put those in. That's just bad shuffling. Okay, let me concentrate. Trump and Putin. Trump and Putin. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so I'll bring the camera down. The first card that did fall out, the world. Yes. What these crazy dudes do affects everybody. So, bring it there, this in. So let's see what's going on here. I'll explain as I go. Okay, these first 3 cards are the current situation. So we've established the world. Beautiful. Money. Why is it always about money? We have the mercenaries and we have the black money, the group work. So let me delve into that a little deeper. The world card, of course, is global. It represents the global landscape. It also represents the symbols of power everywhere. You have the strong guardian angel, the bull, the lion, and the eagle. Okay. There is also an element that I always point out to learners of tarot about that circle. Although the world is a very open card, there is a sense of it also being a closed circle. So that's important. They're both mercenaries to the back teeth, right? They're both mercenaries, they're both war horses. Putin more than Trump. Trump is simply a successful bankrupt. Putin is a genuine war horse who is happy to wage war to suit his own purposes. This card, the price of everything, and everything has its price. I mean, it couldn't be a more perfect three-card introduction to what motivates these men. And given this also reflects group work, it would indicate, and it's a Pentacles money card, already we have a bit of intrigue going on there. So, after that, we're going to have the environment and external factors that are influencing their relationship. All right. This is a bit curious. The stabbed heart, in a funny way, they've disappointed each other and weakened each other. I mean, given this is a reading about two people, Putin really thought, not only with his teams of hackers meddling in the election and to what extent you follow that is one aspect, but he thought he got a puppet in Trump. The problem with that was Trump is such a loose cannon, he can't even stick with a backroom deal. He's so unreliable. So Putin went to the Russian people on state television, other than Fox, and kept saying, you know, Trump's our man, this is going to be the thawing out, you know, finally we've got a US president who understands us because he hated Obama. He thought he had Trump in his pocket, but Trump is just too nutty for that. From the Trump perspective, he thought he'll springboard off Putin and make all this money and be globally famous, and then, because he knew nothing about Russia's involvement in Syria and the chemical weapons and other things, because he's such a buffoon and a disinterested idiot, he failed to perceive the complications of the relationship. So they've actually hurt each other politically. Trump's eventually going to come undone because of Russia, and Putin does not look good in Russia because of supporting Trump, who now people have seen is a clown and a dimwit. So that's interesting. Queen of Wands, King of Wands. There they are. Job lot. Husband and wife. They're both willful, strong men, but at the same time there are problems with both these figures. So, the Queen first. The Queen of Wands, in a positive, more personal reading, is someone who gives energy and advice and courage to people. With her wands, she's unafraid, but she's also highly problematic and can be quite cruel and dogmatic and manipulative. So that's her. The king, much the same. Instead of someone who protects the people, who has great courage and resilience, you could say this is Trump and this is Putin. I don't think so necessarily. I think they've both got both these qualities. But the King of Wands, when it's regarded as a more considerate card, takes in people's needs and looks after people. The negative side of the King of Wands tramples people. It's as simple as that. So that's the atmosphere and external factors operating on it all. We now have hidden influences and hidden agendas over here. So let's see what's happening. Okay. So one or both have considered leaving. Let me take Putin first. There was some talk in international circles a few months ago, I think it's past now, but the talk was he's a bit sick of being a full-time dictator. He doesn't get to play on his yachts and use his hundreds of billions of euros that he squirreled away everywhere, largely because there's frozen. And he was thinking there might be a way out. Of course, he can't help himself. He's ego-driven. He's going to stay. The same with Trump. I think Trump probably a few months in and probably every now and again still thinks, why the fuck did I do this gig? It sucks. Right? So they've both thought about it in different ways and for different reasons. The card of disappointment. Interesting, I picked up on disappointment here. This is emotional disappointment. They're both disappointed men, emotionally. Emotionally. The rah-rah Republican card. Although they've thought of going away, and although they have been disappointed in their roles for the very different reasons, neither of them are. So, in other words, they're going to pretend it's all right. This is that really sort of fake couple card. It can, in a personal reading, represent a happy family, and it's designed to represent that on some level. But when you look closer, it's a performance. It's a performance. And the other thing about it is the children here. So you have the perfect couple with the perfect children. They've got their backs to the children. So the children in this case, when you're talking about world leaders, represents the people. So they've both got their backs to the people and declaring everything is fine. Everything is so good in Russia and everything is great again in America because they are there. So they've thought about it and are coming back. Now, these 6 cards, I'll move everything down a bit so you can see these. Are alternative outcomes. This is why I quite like this layout every now and again. One lot of outcomes, another lot of outcomes. What's going to happen? So one lot of outcomes and another lot of outcomes. Oh, another reversed card. 2 reversed cards. Oh my God. Oh my God. I said, what the? That's quite spooky even for me. Okay. Now, with these, let me just go through them. Ace of Swords, they're both still on top in terms of being the ruler of their domain, as we just had most recently with Sean Hannity. The slightly wilted victory wreath. Couldn't be more appropriate for both of them. Okay, so let me just tell you a little Russian story. Recently on CNN or somewhere I saw an interview with a Russian woman who is running against Vladimir Putin in the next election. How brave is she? Now she is the daughter of a KGB agent who used to be Putin's boss. She's also hugely famous in Russia as a TV star. So the interviewer said, oh hi, you know, do you think you could win this election? And she looked at him as if he was mad, and she said, no, of course not. Putin will win. Doesn't matter how people vote, Putin will win. But because of my connections and because of my fame, it's going to be quite hard for him to kill me. So, you know what? I can say things other candidates can't say. Isn't that interesting? So there we go. So, they've both got their wands, their swords, sorry, out and about. The Fool. Now, Putin's made the mistake all tyrants make. They never know when it's time to go. Trump, we have daily validation, is a fool outright. Putin isn't a fool. He's a smart cookie, but he's not immune to making foolish decisions. And something they share, that would be judgment. That would be people rising up out of their coffins, the coffins representing their lives or being asleep for a long time politically or whatever. So people rising up in judgment of these two men. Here we have the King of Swords, who, as you know, I often refer to as MUELLER, but because it's about both of them, it's not about MUELLER, it's a more traditional reading of the King of Swords. So the King of Swords, who's about justice and cutting through and so forth, is reversed. This is interesting. I'll just come back to that. So that was reversed. The Magician, they're both powerful enough to keep the bullshit flowing and to try and turn it into gold. I would suspect one will be slightly more successful than the other. But there's that alchemy sort of vibe about the Magician being able to pull it off. The third and final card is, again reversed, Seven of Cups, being dazzled by wealth, upside down, losing wealth, losing a lot. This is very interesting. So the reversed King of Swords, meaning fighting against justice, you know, fighting to be crooked, fighting for the right to steal money, power, everything, the trappings of power, all of that, upside down. They're still doing the dance. But there you have it. They're both going to lose immense amounts of money. They're both dazzled by it. It's not only money, it's all the things represented. You know, Trump's got a gold toilet or something, but look, Putin's got a gold yacht. Putin has so much more money than Trump. And because he's not a Dumbo who keeps going bankrupt every few years and getting bailed out, and then when he gets his debts paid by someone else saying, I'm really rich, he's going to lose in a different way. In fact, he's got more to lose than Trump. Oh, how very interesting. Well, they're normally alternative outcomes. You know, if you do it this way, this could happen. If you do it that way, this is more likely to happen. But this is card after card after card after card. These guys have enough support to keep pretending. They get out of shit all the time. Putin, because he has a whole state apparatus that allows him to do whatever he likes, to wield his magic. Trump, just because he has that sideshow personality, you know, he goes up to people and says, I'm for you, you know, even though I've only spent 25 minutes in Ohio, I am so for you, Ohio, you know. And people go, yeah, yeah. So he is a magician too. We mustn't forget that. But out comes judgment, losing. Interesting. Can't give a time frame, but they're both going in a downward spiral. And in many ways it would seem less likely that Vladimir Putin would lose power. But you never know what's around the corner, Vladimir et al. Young Russians are more connected to the rest of the world in a way that they're not staying at home watching state television. They're connecting to the rest of the world. So we're talking people rising up in judgment, not just legal stuff, people rising up. And in America, we know people are not happy. People are rising up in different ways. So I really hope Okay, looking forward to your comments. Bye.